Hey everyone, it's JF from Media Militia. Today we're going to be creating some evil text. Here's a preview of the final outcome. If you haven't already downloaded the support files, please go to our website at mediamilitia.com. That's mediamilitia.com and grab the resources for the tutorial. Alright, to create the evil text we're going to be using a program called ZBrush, and it's created by Pixelogic. It's a digital sculpting and painting program. We're going to be using the 2.5D tools in it today. So open up ZBrush. If you don't have it, they have a free trial for 30 days. It's got all the features and functions that you're going to need in this tutorial. So go to their website, pixelogic.com, and download the trial. Open up ZBrush and click on Other or press Escape. And we're going to go up to Document. And we're going to choose double size so that we get a larger canvas size. Then we're going to click on the zoom tool and drag upwards so that we can see the whole canvas. Now with ZBrush, it's mainly used for 3D painting, 3D sculpting. We're going to be using the 2.5D brushes in it today. So one of the biggest things that you want to learn from it is that you can paint pixels onto your canvas like so, and you can build up depth. So as you paint over other pixels, it's actually creating depth to it. If you hold down the Alt key, it does the opposite of what the brush is doing, so you can actually sculpt in areas. And then you can go back over areas and add more depth as you feel. So that's mainly how we're going to be creating this evil text today, is by using the 2.5D tools and painting on the canvas. So I'm going to hit Control N for new. And I'm going to make sure that my simple brush is still selected, and in the focal shift I'm going to bring it down to right around -39, and then my draw size I'm going to bring it to around 37. So you can see that there's two rings on there. One is for the focal shift and the other is for the draw size. We're going to be mainly using the matte cap red wax material. Alright, now go in there and start creating your letters. As you can see, if the more you drag, the more depth you get. So I'm just going to go over it a couple times and create some nice block letters. And just move your mouse around and you'll create more depth in certain areas. Alright, once you have the main text created, just go through and hold down the Alt key, and you're just going to create little indents into the text. And you can also release the Alt key and fill in areas. So I'm just going to go over just some areas and give it a little bit of like a bump feel. Alright, once you're happy with it, we're going to go over and choose the sphere brush, and we're just going to paint in some of the brushes. To give it a little bit more depth in certain areas. So I just pretty much just trace around the outlines of the text. Since we're painting in a 2.5D area, it will go behind certain elements, but that's exactly what we want. With this tool and with all the other tools as well, you can hold down the Alt key just to give it a little bit more depth and indent certain spheres that we created. So I'm just pretty much just going over everything. If there's certain areas that you like, you can release the Alt key and repaint back on them. Okay, now we're going to go over and we're going to choose the matte cap red clay material. And we're just going to go over the text pretty fast just to give it a little bit more color and depth. And then I'm going to choose a different color, like a brighter red, and do the exact same thing right over the exact same line that we just did. And then I'll go back through and hold down the Alt key and make it a little chunkier. Okay, now I'm going to go back and choose the simple brush and just dab a little bit more red in certain areas. And then I'm going to go choose the eraser brush. I'm going to get rid of the soft lines on our text. Make it more chiseled. Now go grab the depth brush and we're just going to go over certain areas of the evil text. And then go back to our original matte cap red wax and change the color to white. And then just squiggle around your mouse. It doesn't have to be perfect. Because you want to build up some depth onto our evil text. And I'm going to change the intensity for the Z down to around 55, 54. And I'll raise up the focal shift. And then you can also hold down the Alt key and push back some of the depth. Now we're going to go choose the bump brush and create a little bit more of a blob effect in certain spots. And I'm going to choose a darker red. And paint in some more areas. Now we'll choose another red color. and go back in and just add just a dash of color into it. Once you're happy with that, go to the smudge brush, drag down your text, and we're going to smudge some of the pixels. You can change the Z intensity so that you can get a different effect and so that it's not pushing as many pixels down. And I'm going to raise the Z intensity back up and create some little drip effect to the bottom of the text. Then we'll go back into the bump brush. And we're going to change the focal shift down to -87. And the draw size we're going to go to around 5. And we're going to make sure that you are still on matte cap red wax. We're going to choose a bright red. We're just going to draw in some little veins. Then we'll take the draw size down to 3. And go over some of those veins so they have little guys coming off of them. And then we'll choose a darker red. And just go over them again. Okay, now click on your brushes and go to the deco brush and change the texture from the rainbow texture to, we'll do texture 18 to actually bring up our brush size. You can just click and drag and create some type of depth with that texture. And I'll paint right over on those pixels. And that looks good. Now click on your brushes and choose the snake hook brush. And what we're going to do is just click and drag and then like release your mouse, and it creates these really neat little snake creatures. And you can just circle around until you get the effect that you like. And I'm just going to follow down on the text. Okay, once you're happy with that, go back to the bump brush and just paint in some more pixels on top of those snake hooks. Just click and drag, and it makes them have a little bit more depth in certain areas. I'm going to go back to make sure your matte cap red wax is selected, and then choose white as your color. Let me brighten up the image a little bit. And also holding down the Alt key will make it have a lot more depth right now. Alright, and then whenever you're done with your text, if you want, add more of the snake hooks. What you're going to do is you're going to want to render it out. So go to the render and choose best. And then give it a second and it'll render it. And there you have it. What we're going to do now is go to Document, Export. And on your desktop you can export it as a PSD. So I'm going to name it Evil Text. Hit save. And then we're also going to want to do an alpha channel. So I'm going to go to alpha on the menu and choose grab doc. So now that you can see that it created an alpha channel for us, so we can go to export and we'll say evil text alpha and hit save. And then go to document, save as evil text ZBrush. And that'll be the ZBrush file if you want to open it up and change anything on it. So we'll click save, and we'll exit out of ZBrush and open up Photoshop. Okay, so now that you're in Photoshop, make sure that both of your PSD files are open, and we're going to go to the alpha, and you want to create a new adjustment layer, which we're going to choose levels. And then here we want to make sure that the alpha channel is going to be grabbing all the data, so we're going to drag the white slider over to the left until all your text is pretty much white. That looks good right there. And then we're going to go to your layers and control click on both of them so that they're both selected, and we're going to merge the layers. You can press Control E for that if you wanted to. Now press Control A to select all, and then Control C to copy, and then go over to your Evil Text PSD, click on your channels, and then click on New Channel. And in here you're going to want to paste by pressing Control V, and then click on the RGB eyeball, and then we're going to unclick on the alpha channel. Now if you hold down the Control key, you can click on the alpha channel, and that'll make a selection of the alpha. Click on over to your layers and hold down the Alt key, and you can double click on the background layer, and that'll make it editable. Make sure that your selection tool is selected, your marquee tool. Right click anywhere in the selection and choose Layer via Cut. Now on your original background layer, we're going to go to Edit Fill and choose Use Black and click OK. And we're just going to name that background. And then we'll name our evil text, evil text. Now that we have that, we want to choose the lasso tool, And we're going to tighten the things up a little bit. So if you just select around each one of the letters carefully, you can hold down the control key and just move it over into place. And we'll do that with each one of these letters. Alright, that looks good. So now what we want to do is create a brightness layer to brighten everything up a little bit. So click on your adjustments layer, brightness, and I'm going to put in 76 for the brightness, and then for the contrast, -38. I'm going to click go back to the adjustments, and I'm going to add another one. I'm going to add a vibrance layer, and here I'm going to choose 23 for the vibrance and 16 for the saturation. Now from the images that you downloaded from stockvault.net, open up the skull picture, and what we're going to do is Control A to select it, and then Control C to copy it all, and then we'll go back in here, press Control V, and then go to Edit Transform or Control T, Free Transform. We're going to bring this down and place it by the eye, the very little dot of the eye. And then click on the check mark. And then we'll set this layer to overlay, and then press Control Shift U to desaturate it, and then double click on that layer and add a color overlay of red, and we'll change the blend mode to color. So we got like a nice little skull in there. I'm actually going to change this and bring it in a little bit more so that you could tell that it's a skull. And then I'm going to click on add a mask, and then we're just going to mask out the top area. And we'll name this layer skull over eye. And we'll lower the opacity down to 84%. Now grab the other layer from stockvault.net called 14621. Press Control A to select all, press Control C to copy it, and then Control V to paste. And we'll bring this layer below the evil text, and we'll name it grunge background. We're going to add another adjustment layer, so click levels, and I'm going to just change this. On the first input text box, type in 150. In the second one, type in 0.52. And then on the third one, type in 255. And then we'll click back on the grunge layer and choose luminosity. And that gets us a nice grunge effect behind our text. Now we'll open up the other image from StockVault. That's the main skull, 5492. And we'll do the same thing. Control A to select all, Control C to copy, and then click on your main PSD, and then we'll press Control V to paste. And we'll drag that into place, and then we'll move this just right underneath our evil text, and then press Control T to size it, and then we'll just bring it down in some. Just hold down the Shift key also helps to constrain proportions, or you can click on the little chain to maintain the aspect ratio. And then we'll click on the check mark, then we'll press Control Shift U so that we can desaturate it, and we'll name this layer main skull. Now in the resource files, grab the scribbles.jpg and drag it in, and then press Control A, Control C, go back over to our main PSD, and then Control V to paste it. And we'll change this layer to screen, and then press Control I to invert it, and then we'll change the layer opacity to about 14%. And then we'll move it up a little to go right behind the evil text. I'm going to click on the main skull. I'm also going to lower the opacity on this. That looks good. At 38%. Okay, now we'll go back over to our blood background, and we'll press Control C again to copy it, and go back over to our main PSD and press Control V to paste it, and then we'll choose lighten for the blending mode on this layer, and we'll drag it up right below the evil. And then we'll create a brightness contrast layer adjustment. And in the brightness, type in -150. And for the contrast, type in 100. And then right in the middle of it, hold down your Alt key and you can see the icon change. And then keep the Alt key clicked on and then click right in the middle of it. And that'll make sure that we're only adjusting for the brightness and contrast on that blood background. And then choose your brush tool and we're just gonna paint in some black around it. I'm going to move this layer up a little. Then we'll go back to the skull over the eye. We'll mask that out a little bit better. Now I'm going to crop this image to right there for right about now. Now on our vibrance and brightness layers, we're going to make sure that we just mask those out. So control click on your evil text layer and on your brightness, fill it, and then we'll just control D to deselect, and then we'll press control I to invert it, and then we'll control click on that brightness and contrast mask and go up to your vibrance mask and fill that as well. So now all we have is just the vibrance and the brightness and contrast affecting that evil text. And I'm going to click on the blood background. I'm just going to get rid of this blue area in here and the grunge background right there. Let's go around in any areas that you're not too excited about, just black them out. Same with the skull, the main skull. Just gonna get rid of some areas on it. And just keep switching back and forth between your grunge background and your blood background. And kind of paint in so that you still have that blood spatter effect. And still grungy. And then I'm going to drop the opacity down to about 79% on the blood background. Now in your resource files, find your grunge.png and we'll open it up and press Ctrl A to select all, Ctrl C to copy, and then Ctrl V to paste it into our main PSD. And then we'll just drag it right underneath the evil text. Make sure that's not a clipping mask. And we'll just position it. Press Ctrl T and just match it up to your document size. It doesn't matter that it's actually making it larger as it's grunge. Then press the check mark. Name that layer grunge or grunge frame. Now open up the three text.jpgs and we're going to control copy them into our document, and we'll set the blend mode to screen at 15% opacity and just place those anywhere that you want. And there's your evil text. Hope you guys enjoyed this tutorial. I am J01 with Media Militia. See ya.